Be Wealthy and Smart, episode 353.
Step into a world of wealth and financial freedom without budgets, boredom, or bosses on Be Wealthy and Smart. And now, here's your host, Linda P. Jones.
Welcome to Be Wealthy and Smart. I'm Linda P. Jones, America's Wealth Mentor, empowering women and men worldwide to financial freedom. Well, today is Listener Question Friday, and we're going to deal with a listener question around the subject of how to get started investing when you're afraid. Here was the question I got on Twitter. Linda, thanks for the financial information that you are providing to your listeners. I would like to invest on my own, currently managed by a bank, but am too worried that I may fail and never bounce back. What can you recommend I should do? And it was signed Tom. Well, that is a very interesting question, and interesting the way that you phrased it, because it sounds like there's a lot of fear going on there, and fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of making a mistake. What was interesting was the phrase, you may fail and never bounce back. I'm not really sure what you mean by that, because it looks, by your picture, that you are very young. So you would have lots of time in order to make a mistake and recover. So I'm not quite sure why you think you would fail and it would be more or less permanent. The other thing is that you are already having some money managed by a bank. So you already are ahead of the game because you're already investing. Someone is helping you do that, and congratulations on having a professional that is helping you with that at the bank. And I would definitely, if you're looking to get some more knowledge, I would definitely talk to your financial advisor and learn more about what you already own. Do you own ETFs? Do you own mutual funds? Do you own stocks? What is it that you have at the bank? If they are investing in the stock market for you, then what is it that they have you invested in? That is a very important question for you to understand. Now, besides having your financial advisor, it sounds like you want to start investing on your own, which would be fabulous, and I think is a great idea. I encourage everyone to have multiple investment accounts and put away as much money as you can into your investment account. And by the way, starting young, you have time on your side as well to compound, which makes it so much easier to achieve your goals. So again, kudos to you for wanting to get started and starting young and having the curiosity at a young age to really want to get the knowledge about investing. I think the question is, what exactly is it that you want to learn? I'm not quite clear what part of investing you want to learn. Do you want to learn how to invest in ETFs? Do you want to learn how to buy individual stocks? Those are two very, very different things that require very different skill sets. Because an ETF is fairly easy to choose different passive investments and to asset allocate broadly and to select good performing low fee ETFs. That's pretty easy for anybody to do. But it's not always easy to select good stocks. And so that's a totally different conversation, a totally different skill set, and it's not a matter of just picking certain things randomly or on a tip or things like that. So that requires a lot more study to get good at stock picking, in my experience and in my opinion. I did do podcast number 293 of Be Wealthy and Smart about where to invest $300 to $500. And if you haven't listened to that podcast, I really suggest that you listen, because in there I talk about where you can put a small amount of money, how you can get started, and I even go kind of outside the box with some different things. So I think you should listen to number 293. And I think you should also consider opening an account for yourself if you want to get started investing and you want to do it on your own. I suggest that you open an account with a brokerage firm and also set it up so you can do some dollar cost averaging. So you can have regular deductions come out of your checking account and go over into your investment account. So I would definitely look into that. I would then try to figure out what it is that you're more interested in investing in. And if you need to learn more about how to buy stocks, things like that, then I'll tell you that I started with How to Make Money in Stocks by William J. O'Neill. He's also the owner of Investors Business Daily. I don't get paid for that, but I do believe in it a lot, so I mention it on the show quite a bit. But you can read that newspaper, subscribe to the Saturday only if you want the physical copy, or you can get the online copy. And you can certainly get the book on Amazon or at your bookstore. You can also read other magazines. One of my favorite financial publications is Kiplinger's. I really think they do a good job of personal finance and explaining things without hype and pretty accurately for individuals. So that would be a magazine that you could pick up at the store, Kiplinger's. And I would just say start slowly. You know, the very first investment that I made was in a mutual fund, and I had watched mutual funds climbing and just having amazing performance, kind of like where we are right now this year, tell you the truth. And I went and I bought a mutual fund, and of course, the mutual fund then went down by 30%. So it was a big decline we had at that time. And that was my first investment experience. And I didn't fail. I mean, obviously I went on to make $2 million in the stock market by the time I was 39. So I certainly went on to succeed. So even though my very first investment was a failure, I have to encourage you, Tom, that it's not going to be permanent. Even if you do fail, you can recover from that. You can come back and be very, very successful as an investor. So don't be afraid that that first thing, even if it doesn't work out, is going to be such a disaster that you can't recover. I just don't think that's realistic. So I want you to change your mindset about how you're thinking about that and take away any shame that you might feel around making a mistake or having some failure in your life. It's okay. And sometimes we get that message that it's not okay to have a failure. And I just want to remind you about Sarah Blakely, who was the founder of Spanx and who is the youngest woman billionaire ever in America. And she said her father taught her to fail and rewarded her for failure. So he would ask her every night at dinner, what did you do today that you failed at? And then he would praise her for trying something new and failing. And then, from there you course correct. It's like GPS. Even if you get off track, you certainly course correct and get back on track, back on to the road in the right direction. And it's okay if you make a mistake. You can always turn the car around and get headed back to the right direction. So it's the same kind of thing. I would say in this market, certainly we've had tremendous gains. And I would say that we are overdue for a 20% correction. That happens every rolling 10-year period, and we have yet to see that happen. It has never not happened in history that in any rolling 10-year period we haven't had a 20% correction. So this might be the first time, but on the other hand, we're not quite out of the woodwork yet. So we haven't been seeing very much volatility at all. We've been seeing record low volatility, hardly any pullbacks. And we certainly are due for a pullback, which are normal and regular things that happen when you invest in the stock market. They're to be anticipated and expected and even embraced, because then you can buy low. So I want to remind you to invest for the long term. You'll have more success the longer you can buy and hold over the long term. And you can recover and you can learn to be successful. So good for you again for starting at a young age. The important thing is just to get started. You don't have to do it perfectly. You don't have to do it right the first time, but you do have to get started. And again, I just want to point out you have time on your side. So even if you don't have a lot of money to invest, even if you're new to investing, you have that time horizon of 30 or 40 years that you're going to be able to compound. And that is a massive advantage. So if you can start young and take advantage of the time that you have, you will be way ahead, even if you don't invest very much, even if you don't invest very well. Just the fact that you have so many years to compound, you, my friend, are doing a great thing to get started early. I'll post a link to podcast number 293 over on my website. And while you're there, if you want to get the 11 quick financial steps to boost your wealth, there are 11 quick things anyone can do to get your net worth growing faster. That's all for today. Until next time, live the good life and be wealthy and smart.
Thank you for listening to Be Wealthy and Smart with Linda P. Jones. Share the wealth and tell your family and friends about the show. Check out our website, blog, and social media for more riches at www.bewealthyandsmart.com.